Bye-bye. Still some tickets available at the Theatre Royal.
Here we go again. And you're very welcome back to our candidates debate here in the Dungarvan Town Hall Theatre. Thank you very much. Now, before the break, we were discussing an issue surrounding whether or not the members, the candidates here, if elected, would take a reduction in their TD's salary and expenses if they were elected into government. Who wanted to come back on that first of all? Tom Higgins?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that TD salary is, 90,000 plus now. And their expenses, some of the time, are up to 90,000 plus. And some of them are unvouched. And it's extraordinary. It must be the only job in the world where you get...
But you, Tom, answer the question. Would you hand back some of your money voluntarily?
I'd take the salary and I'd leave the expenses.
Okay.
But could I just continue before that? The Senate is just as bad. Some of them are on 65,000 and 65,000 roughly unvouched expenses. There's no other job where you get paid nearly 100,000 to go to work and you don't even have they're unvouched in some cases. But before you just go, I'd just like to continue one more time. The pension funds are even worse. Bertie Ahern has a pension fund of 7.6 million. Dermot Ahern, 5.9 million. Mary Harney, 5.8 million. Noel Dempsey, 5.5. Bat O'Keefe, 4.1. Would you expect
a pension if you went in, Tom?
Sorry?
Would you expect a pension if you went in as a TD?
I don't expect being long enough to get a pension.
Okay.
But could I just say one last word?
I'm going to move on. No, Tom. No, Tom, thank you. Jody Power from the Greens on this, please.
I think integrity is the basis for any person in government, in any party in government. And I think the one thing that the Green Party has done in government is show that they're integrity. They have integrity. And I think once we have that, we have a basis from which you can build the country on again, try and bring something new again. Now, with regards to expenses, expenses must be vouched. To claim for unvouched expenses, to the dishonesty that we saw really, it really must be stopped. So we definitely have to have expenses.
We all love some unvouched expenses, I'll tell you. Justin Collery.
Okay, I have to come back on John Deasy there, okay? The reality of the last government was that they ruled without authority for the last 3 weeks of their reign. The budget was only passed with the connivance of Fine Gael and Labour. And if they really had a problem with ministerial pensions, they could have just said, we're not going to support the budget unless... And I'd tell you one more thing. Do we really expect that after waiting for 13 years to get into government, that Fine Gael are going to stop the gravy train? Enda Kenny has already started the politicking with his teacher's pension. I don't think so. Okay. We need independence to stop that.
Let's take Ciara. Let's do this. Ciara Conway, would you take a cut in salary or a cut in expenses if you became a TD?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, I think integrity needs to be restored into politics. People's belief and, I suppose, they're just absolutely, bewildered when you hear those sums of money that are been granted to retiring TDs. I mean, call me stupid, but I always thought you had to be 65 to get a pension. And I mean, this is just crazy stuff that they can decide, you know what, it's going to be a tough election, I'm going to bow out and I'm going to cash in my chips. I just think that has to stop. We have to see integrity put back into politics. And not just in relation to pay and expenses, but how the Dáil operates. Like, it's lunacy that they will have debates up until 12 o'clock at night, making really key decisions about the future of our economy, of our society. We were told that Brian Lenihan made a decision in the middle of the night in his kitchen about our economic future. That is not good enough. We need to reform politics and how it works and how the Dáil operates.
Okay, we may have a question on political expenses and reform in a little while. A question that's just come from the floor here. What cuts, it's quite a clever question, what cuts, if any, would you make or support if elected? So what cuts, if any, would you make or support if elected? John Deasy, go to you first maybe on that?
Yeah, I think I started by saying that, the premise of our, budget, jobs, platform is that we're not going to overtax, and across the board, we're going to cut government. Since I've been in politics, what I've seen over the last 10 years, almost in every department, are layers upon layers of administration growing up every year. That young lady talking about mental health services. The HSE is a good place to start. I deal with people who are in pain, who are in waiting lists. They seem to get longer. But what I have seen over the last 9-10 years are layers of administration growing up within the public sector. So if you ask me, that is exactly where I'd start. within government, make it leaner and a lot less fat.
Okay. Who wants to go next on this question? What cuts, if any, would you support? Brendan, what cuts, if any, would you make or support if elected?
Well, we've shown already that we are prepared to make cuts because we have increased income tax, we have reduced social welfare payments. So we have shown that we're not afraid to make the hard decisions. A lot of those type of cuts have already been made. We have to tackle the public sector now, and one of the agreements in relation to Croke Park was that efficiencies will be brought into the system that haven't been there up to now, and we all know it as working politicians in dealing with the system, that the system is not working and there is far too much bureaucracy in it. You talk to we'll take the HSE because I suppose it's a topical one to always be talking about. You talked to any people in the front line there and they will tell you about the number of pen pushers that they are inside in the HSE trying to justify their positions, and that is an obvious place to start.
Okay, who would like to go next to this? Tom Higgins looking at me there. Yes, Tom?
There has been so many cuts at the moment, one would wonder where to start, but one of the cuts I would definitely incise, where I would incise, is the Quangos. This is an anachronism as for quasi-autonomous governmental organisations. These are usually state-funded public bodies, and just before Brian Cowan retired back to Clara, he put 90 different directors on various bodies, all Fianna Fáil puppets or whatever, and I think that's not good enough. They should be
that's where you make the cuts, Tom, is in the Quangos. Brendan, back to you to respond to that.
Wait now, that's not true, because actually Leo Varadkar and Fine Gael made that charge as well. And in fairness to him, when he checked into it, he discovered that was not the case. There was people of ability put onto those, so it's not fair to make that accusation because it's not true.
Okay. Ciara Conway, next maybe on this?
Yeah, I suppose what we're saying, I mean, is that the Croke Park agreement needs to be accelerated. You know, we need to see the efficiencies there in relation to the public service pay bill. We need to look at that. We need to cap as well, you know, the upper echelons of public service pay as well, and make people accountable. Because, I mean, over the years, what you've seen is various quangos and departments been formed, and what I call the hollowing out of the state. In the past, you know, the minister was responsible for what happened on in the health service. The minister was responsible for what happened in relation to defence, or in relation to, you know, food safety or whatever. But we have all of these agencies who are hollowing out the state. Nobody is accountable for anything, and it's ludicrous. We need reform in relation to that. But we are saying that we need to have redundancies within the public service as well. We do acknowledge that there are, you know, I suppose they're oversubscribed in relation to middle management and administrators. But we're saying that we don't believe in, and we object to compulsory redundancies. And in the past, the Labour Party, I suppose, has been, you know, criticised for our relationship with trade unions. But I would actually reverse that on its head and say we're in the best place to negotiate with trade unions to ensure that frontline services are not cut. Because Fine Gael are looking for 33,000 redundancies, and I fail to see how they cannot, that cannot impact on frontline services. And people, I believe, don't mind paying a little bit more if they have services that work, if they can see a doctor they trust for a price that they can afford. But currently, that is not what is happening.
Okay, thank you, Ciara. Justin Collery on this one, please, and then we'll go to Jody.
I'd have to contradict Ciara there. She says that Labour are best placed to bring about those cuts because they're in bed with the unions. And I would say that, Fianna Fáil have been very close to the unions for the last 10 years and have got us to where we are today.
What cuts, Justin, would you?
Okay, so it's time that we start running government more like a business. So if I was in charge of a large company and we were losing... You're running
John Deasy's lines here now.
John Deasy's really probably my lines. And if I was in charge of a large company and we were losing 20 billion euros a year, I would call in my senior managers. I would say, I need savings of 20 billion euros. I'm not going to accept any reduction in services, and this happens all the time in the private sector, and I wouldn't implement a plan whereby I wait for people to retire. Changes need to be made quickly and effectively.
Okay, and over to yourself, Julie, on this one, please.
Just on what Justin said, to get that 20 billion savings in the public sector alone, we need to reduce everybody's salary in the public sector by 38%. Now, to do that, that would be devastating to our economy. So that's not going to happen. We definitely do have to hollow out, as Ciara said, all the inefficiencies that are in the public sector, and there's many of them there. We know that there. So there are efficiencies there. Where would I put the supports? Number one, what we've done in the Green Party, where we put this renewable, the home insulation scheme, where we've put 4,500 contractors to work, re-insulating all houses around the country. Now that in itself will reduce our fuel bills, all our imported fuel bills, within 4 or 5 years will pay for itself. Where else do we need to put money? We need to put money into renewables, where we become, in the Green Party, we've projected that so we can become 40% of all our energy needs can be done with renewables by the year 2020. We're on target to do that. And also another thing coming true where I work down at the National Maritime College as an engineering lecturer down there. And we're part of a new scheme going out there, Merck Cube it's called. That's the Marine Energy Research Centre that's being built as we speak right now. The sod is going to be turned on it very, very shortly. Putting money into that, 35 million is going to cost to do that. We are number one in the world right now with wave energy development. And with just a little bit more, we're almost there. And we can get back. We can realize, I reckon, about 120 billion in energy in that sector alone.
That'll be a
we
good
are
return
on
on
the
investment,
cusp
all right,
of it.
wouldn't it?
Yes, huge, and about 100,000 jobs.
Jody, thank you very much for that. We'll take a break now. Back with more after this.